I just want to go over a couple of things that are overlooked all the time in any kind of transaction. This is a big company, this is a small company, this is everything in between. This is a stock purchase, this is an asset purchase, this is an ESOP transition. These are things that I can't tell you how many business owners have come back after the fact and said, I didn't think about this. Number one, obviously the tax consequences. This is why we make sure we've got a CPA and a financial planner ready for us up front before we sign an LOI, period, end of sentence. If you identify the tax consequences and you're going into the transaction with your eyes wide open, it will be so much better for you in the long run. Number two, enterprise intelligence. You, as the business owner, are going to be stepping out. You are the one that has all the historical knowledge. You know where all the skeletons are buried. You know the good, the bad, and the ugly involved with your business. Is there anybody else in the business who does? Because as you're transitioning from your control to your buyer's control, you're going to need somebody to pass along that enterprise intelligence. What has worked for us in the past? What did we try and it just simply didn't work for our particular business purpose, and why? What are we doing from an operational standpoint to streamline, to make sure that we're operating at the most efficient way possible? And then what does the next step look like? What does the next 5 or 10 years of our business model look like? These are things that I think a lot of you in this room, I think you may take for granted. I think you don't think about those day-to-day things because you're thinking about them in the shower or before you go to bed at night. And you're like, well, I'm the business owner. I'm supposed to be thinking about these things. I totally agree. But do you know who thinks about business ownership that works for you right now? Probably not many people. You may have 1 or 2 people in your ranks, but that enterprise intelligence and understanding what it means to think like an owner is an essential part and a critical component of any transition. And then finally, training and transitioning your leadership. This has been a really interesting shift that I've seen in the sales that we've done just in the last 3 or 4 years. It used to be that businesses that were buying other corporate enterprises wanted to have a long-term transition. So if you sold your business, you would sign a 3-year transition services agreement that basically said, I'm going to continue working for you for 3 years. Well, guess what? That's all fine and good if you were 59 or 62 when you signed the agreement. But what happens if you're 74 already? Do you want to work for that company for 3 years? Probably not. You're going to be an employee. You don't get to call the shots. You want to think about what the transitioning is going to look like. What we've seen more recently in the last few years is, I will tell you that the longest transition service agreement that I've put together in probably the last 4 years has been 18 months. Businesses are not looking for long-term transitions as much anymore. Now, this will all depend upon how much control you had on a day-to-day basis. How much is tied up in you being the maitre d', the cook, and the dishwasher, right? If you're doing everything within the business and somebody's coming in to buy the business and you're not going to be in that business any longer, how much is it really worth? If you've got people who are cross-trained, if you've got a new transition team that you're able to turn things over to as this is being done, these are things that you need to think about way in advance. And I'm not talking about a few months before you consummate a sale. I'm talking about years in advance to make sure that you're prepared for a sale. All right, and so those are just some of the big picture items that I wanted to go over from a corporate standpoint, from a mergers and acquisitions, and from a position of what don't we know and what can hurt us from what we don't know.